Control, Perfect Information Games, and Kelvin and the Infamous Machine. This is Staying In. Pete, you're looking sharp.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't do it. I had a professional do it.
Professional do what?
My hair.
Yeah.
Your hair.
Pete, what do you say when you walk into your barber? Do you just say the usual? Are you at that stage yet?
I think me and Stephen are pretty close now, and
Not close enough that you don't call him Steve, just Stephen still.
I think he prefers Stephen.
Okay.
That's how close we are. I know to go with the full name. So I went in and I was like, Stephen, hello. He's a slightly older gentleman. So
Do you make appointments at this barber's?
Yeah, the hairdresser. Yeah, it's not like a barber's. It's an all person. Well, I don't know what the difference is. It's for all. It's unisex, right? It's a unisex.
Okay. But you have to make an appointment to go see Stephen.
To go and see Stephen. Yeah, 100%.
And you ask for Stephen every.
No, it's just Stephen's. Stephen's the only one who works there. He's the only person. So it's a 3-chair. I was told the other day that the time of the 3-chair barber's just out of here, but apparently that is not true. Stephen is absolutely holding up the 3-chair rule.
So hang on 1 minute. You go to a barber's, a hairdresser's.
Yeah.
Only one person works there.
Yep.
But he still has
3
chairs.
Yeah. So
Okay.
so there's a very smart reason behind all of this, and that's because
While one's is drying,
It's a production line.
I mean,
bleaching the other one, and then cutting someone else.
Yeah, I mean, basically, he
doesn't.
He's got a slightly older clientele, right? So if they're all if all the late, so I go in and like there'll be a lady having a nice.
They've fallen asleep.
Well, they'll have had like a blue rinse, or they'll have had like a bit of a perm going on or anything like that, and it's got to take time to set in. So then I sneak in. And I'm sat there, and I'm like, yeah, brilliant. And he's like, well, these guys, they're just going to be here for the next, 45 minutes, so I'll get your hair done now. And I'm like, yeah, cool.
Pete, do you attend a barber's that's doing care in the community?
Yeah, I mean, no, they do. Their clientele is, I would say, like, higher than average, right, in terms of age. And that's why I go there, because basically all the other ones, all the young and trendy barbers, they're all too loud, or they're very boisterous, or they're talking about stuff that I don't want to talk about. Whereas I go there, I go and see Stephen. We talk about guinea pigs. We talk about nice restaurants. We talk about nice holidays that he's been on. It's a really nice hairdressing experience. I nearly got him actually the other day to change the colour of my hair. I was thinking about doing that.
Okay. It's just more evidence that you are a 70-year-old man locked in a 30-year-old's body.
Yeah, Pete is like quantum. It is like Quantum Leap.
Yeah,
but in a body.
So when you say you were considering changing your hair colour,
yeah.
In what way? Because I mean, I've dyed my hair in the past, but I was much younger at that age.
Did you just do the tips, Dan?
I just got highlight. They weren't just the tips. I mean,
Frosty tips.
It went all the way down to the root, but it wasn't a full single colour. There were highlights.
Just streaks. Yeah, I did the tips. Yeah, I did the tips on my own.
Cool.
When I was in year 8.
Yeah.
I had red highlights because I was cool and it's different.
Do red highlights show up in brown hair?
They do.
It just looks like your hair's rusted.
Yeah.
And I wasn't really prepared. So the first time I had it done, I went to like a proper hairdresser, had it done, and they put like one of those big rubber like basically condoms on your head, and then just picked the hair through and then put the dye on that. It didn't look good. And then I tried it again when I was at uni, and I just got a friend to do it, and then my head kind of just looked a little bit orange.
Yeah.
So yeah.
You want to come see my man Stephen? You'll sort
my history of kind of DIY dyeing is not the best. Did you guys ever hear about when I tried to dye my own clothes?
No.
This is a game when I was at uni, so I wasn't that young, but I was old enough to know better. And I got a pair of jeans, like a pair of normal denim jeans.
Yeah.
I got kind of a rip in them, and I was like, I can't really wear them, they look a bit rubbish. So I'll try and do something with them so they look a bit better. So I thought, what I'll do,
fix them, for example, sew them.
No.
Yeah. Or so do something so bold that detracts from the rip.
Yeah.
Another rip somewhere else.
Cut the
round the crotch.
Cut the trousers so high up they're like those kind of jean, like really super shorts.
Okay, I mean Kris is onto him because I did because the one cut was like it was a small rip, a really rubbish rip on the one knee. So I kind of made that rip bigger, and then did a similar rip on the opposite knee. So they were real cool.
No.
But I also decided that because they were like deep blue denim, just regular kind of denim. I decided I wanted them stonewashed. I wanted like that light kind of stonewashed blue, which was quite cool at the time. So I thought, how am I going to get that? I mean, I kind of wanted it. I'd had some other jeans that were kind of looked a little bit bleached. So I thought, well, what I'll do is I'll bleach them. That's what I'll do. So obviously, I laid them in the bath with a bit of water, and I looked around the bathroom for bleach, and obviously,
No.
and there were a selection of bottles of chemicals.
Damn.
So I proceeded to then fill the bath. Well, not fill the bath. I put in copious amounts of kind of bleach and domestos and toilet duck and basically anything I could get my hands on.
It's like the first episode of Breaking Bad.
You mix bleaches together. That's literally the first thing to not do.
Yeah, so mix that all up together, get it root good, and then kind of just left
Dan woke up a week later.
Yeah, his vision still hadn't returned.
So yeah, I kind of left them there for a while, and then kind of got all excited because I was going to have my pair of like cool stonewashed jeans, and then I went to look at them, and they were like, they look a bit purple. And I rinsed them off, and lo and behold, I dyed them purple. But you know what? They still look pretty cool. So I then proceeded to wear them quite often, thinking they were cool. Because let's face facts: how many people have a pair of Levi's ripped purple jeans? I'll tell you how many.
That kill 99.9% of all bacteria.
Yeah, you didn't have to wash them for 3 months.
At the time, they looked cool. In hindsight, not so much.
The listener question comes from Kian Jones. Kian? Yes. Our friend asks, what's your favourite perfect information game?
Oh, I mean, the question doesn't really come up in Trivial Pursuit that much, but
I don't understand what the question
I'm
is.
glad I'm not the only one.
So, right, a perfect information game is a mainly always board games. I can't really think of a computer game, but it's where all the information is available to both players at all times. So, chess.
Okay.
Is a perfect information game, and at no point there's no random element, there's no like hidden cards. So take for example something like Machikoro, where all the information is available to all players at all times, but there is a level of information which isn't available to players, which is what's going to happen when you roll those dice.
Right.
Yeah
Makes sense.
So
the question is, what's your favourite perfect information game?
So one of my faves is a game called Patchwork.
Okay.
And what's brilliant about Patchwork is it's also a great little two-player game, and I think quite a lot of perfect information games are little two players, like little two-player gems. And so Patchwork is, you have a square board each, and on the square board the square is like split up a bit like a chessboard, lots of little squares on it, and then in the middle of the table or on the carpet, which is where me and my wife like to play lots of our games, you spread out all these little like patchwork pieces, and they're a bit like tetronymos. So they're all like different shapes, like they're not like just squares, they're all like little like kinks and L's and weird sort of like H shapes and all this kind of stuff. And basically on your turn you pick up those pieces if you can afford them with these little button like pieces. So if you have two little buttons, you can pay those two buttons to pick up a 2-button patchwork piece.
This sounds
cute. It's very, very cute, very, very twee. It's the only board game I've ever bought my mother to play. I still don't think she's played it. and then you take the piece you just bought, and then you build it into your patchwork. And at the end of the game, certain patches that you put into your quilt are worth certain points, and you get points deducted for spaces you haven't built. But what's wonderful about it, and what makes it a perfect information game, or a PIG, or a pig,
whoa,
is that because you both have access to all the information at all the same time, and unless you're being really sneaky and like hiding coins from the other player, the game has lots of moments where you're looking down and going, right, that's the piece I really want. What if I can get that piece, that's going to complete this little gap. And at the same time, my wife is usually going, that's the piece he really wants.
Yeah.
That's a piece that's really going to fill up that gap there. So that's a piece I'm going to be picking up. And that's kind of sort of condensing and maybe belittling what makes a good perfect information game. But in Patchwork's case, that's why it really works. That kind of small battles of trying to gain these little bits of territory around the board, and at all times knowing what's always available to be had. So therefore you're kind of playing this game of open strategies with the person next to you, which really makes for this kind of lovely dynamic. There's no moment where it's like, and I now use this card, and
Right.
you know, I take that away from you, or now I'm going to do this, and you didn't see that one coming. It's just like this wonderful, like slow bubble until the end where you do the scoring, and then it's a complete surprise. You don't really know who's going to win. So it's lovely.
I was going to say, hey, that's my fish.
Yep, that is a perfect information game.
It certainly is.
But I've only played it once, so I can't really remember what it is. I think my favourite's chess. I'll be honest, it doesn't sound very exciting, but I mean, like, you know, like
Hey,
it
Pete, are you
is
forgetting one of your favourite ever perfect information games?
maybe
What about backgammon?
it's not perfect information.
It's not, because there's dice rolls.
Yeah, it's dice rolls in backgammon.
I thought dice rolls were allowed because the information is available for everyone. You don't see the dice roll until it's rolled, and then everyone sees it at the same time.
Yeah, but the outcome of the dice is random.
Yeah. Yeah, so like your next part, the next piece of your you can't strategize. You can't fully strategize because you can't know what your opponent will do next, or theoretically could do next.
It's like the difference between the board games Onitama and the Duke, even though in principle they're quite similar. One is entirely random, it's bag drawing, and the other one you're just playing the same selection of cards that are face up for everyone to see.
Hey, That's My Fish is a good shout, though.
Yeah.
That's a really interesting pig game, or pig. Oh no, I've just said that pin number thing. I forget what that's called. But it's a really interesting pig, mainly in the same way that, you know, Patchwork is, and what makes these games really interesting is you're all working on the basis that everyone knows what everyone is kind of up to at the same time.
Right.
And in someone like Hey, That's My Fish, there's those moments where, say if you're playing like a 3-player game or a 4-player game, in Hey, That's My Fish, when you're moving penguins, and after you've moved them, that the hexes get taken away from the board, so it's very easy for someone to get isolated. And when you're playing a game like that, it becomes very clear when someone's very close to being isolated. So it kind of, and because you've got all the information available to you, what that does is create a situation where you can be suddenly trying to bargain with the players around you to not gang up on you, because everyone knows the situation that you're in, and there's no like dice roll that's going to save you. There's no card that's going to save you in that situation. So you're almost forced to go, hang on, please don't gang up on me. You can all see the situation that I'm in. Just give me a couple of turns to get out of it.
Yeah.
Which I guess is the attraction. A Hive is also another great shout, but again, I don't get to play it a lot because it's not really a favourite of Lisa's. And every time I played it with Kris has always finished the game going, I have no idea what I just did.
Yeah,
so
I do sound like Len Goodman in that situation. That's right.
But it's just like it's the same after I played Shot and Totten with Kris. It's just like I have no idea what I've just been doing.
Well, I'm going to actually come in for a little bit of a rebuttal there, because I've got a game that Sam says that too, and that is Santorini. Which
okay, fair enough.
Which I think is a perfect information game.
No, I know. Hang on. I know what I'm doing in Santorini, but I just don't know what the best thing to do in it is. I've not. Yeah. It's the same with Settlers of Catan. Like, I just haven't been able to crack that puzzle.
That's not necessarily a bad thing. I think that is, in some respects, that aids its replayability, because otherwise, I mean, you're never going to. Otherwise, there's a risk of gaming the game. But Santorini's beautiful. It's basically, you've got a grid. You can play up to 2 to 4 people, You've got your two little builders, and you move them, and you build, and you can build orthogonally or diagonally. But you have these little god power cards, and they're all based on the kind of Greek gods.
Okay.
And so everyone's got their own little player powers, but everyone knows what they are. And you win if you're the person who gets to the top of the tower. But other people can prevent you by just standing next to your tower that you've just got ready and primed, ready to jump onto, and they just put a blue dome on the top, like the iconic domes of Santorini. And it is a beautiful, beautiful game to have on the table. But it is totally a pig game, because everything's completely transparent, and you kick yourself afterwards because someone will pull off a move. You think, oh my gosh, I didn't see that coming. A bit like chess.
Right.
Where suddenly the bishop will come in literally out of your peripheral vision and you think, oh my gosh, I didn't even clock you.
What's the bishop doing there?
I was focusing so much on what was directly in front of me. And Santorini's a bit like that. And the player power elements, there's so many of these player powers cards in place that it just adds that variability to it. And I really like it. And a bit like Shot and Totten and Hive, I don't really get it out that much. But I really love it. It's a very pretty game. A very beautiful, light strategy game.
Just thought of one that could be, and you may well shoot this down immediately, and that's only because I played it once, and I played it a long time ago with you guys, but I know you've played it more, so I'm not sure whether or not I'm actually right, because I can't remember how it all plays out. What about Flick 'em Up?
Huh.
Is there a in my mind, it's just the layout of your kind of your meeples and your things that you flick around. I can't remember if there is a card-based element to it or any extra element.
Flick 'em Up's an interesting one, actually, Dan, because dexterity games, you have the intention, but you maybe just crap at flicking for one go, and suddenly chance, it's like rolling a die, suddenly chance is a factor there.
But is it though? I mean, like, is chance a factor if you're just crap at something? That isn't hidden information. Like, is physicality, like, you can get better at Flick 'em Up games, right? Like, you can get better at being physically better at the game.
But still, like, random things can happen. Like, you're more likely to accidentally flick something incorrectly in Flick 'em Up than you are, say, if you're playing a card game, pulling the wrong card out of your hand and then playing it, say, for example.
Yeah, definitely, but it is possible to know absolutely everything in that game.
Oh, yeah, completely. But it's just. I suppose it is technically, you're right, if it feels like description, but there's a little bit more variability there in terms of actually what does happen.
Yeah, definitely.
It's like playing Jenga, for example. You can see the intention the player is going to do, but the whole thing could topple at any moment if, Dan sneezes or something. I literally got a notification today on my Kickstarter app that Burgle Bros 2 has been funded. This is my first Kickstarter.
Oh,
I actually looked at that the other day, and I considered kickstarting it.
Oh,
really?
I'm so looking forward to this. The problem is now that it started recommending me other things to follow, and I'm having to resist. I know Sam's shaking his head, and quite wisely. I would never have probably gone in for the first Burgle Brothers unless I knew that it was good, and so I'm a bit wary of that kind of thing. But no, I'm really loving it. I'm loving getting the updates. It's great about the whole process. I feel like a producer of a film where the director says, "Hey, Kris, we've just finished this shot. Do you want to take a look and see what you think?" So like, occasionally I'll get like, not just me personally, but like all the backers will get like a Google form to fill out, voting on certain things we like to see and stuff and things, and it's really cool to be part of that kind of process. Really,
there's something nice, isn't there? I mean, I don't know if you feel the same, but I've backed like maybe 6 or 7 Kickstarters in my life so far, and I've received maybe a third of them. But like, the thing I really like is backing a Kickstarter where I'm just like, I'm just going to give you this money and hopefully you'll make something good out of it. I just kind of want to see this get made. Like, I just want to be like along for the ride, and I think being along for the ride is quite a fun bit of it. And I think like the Kickstarters I've really not liked have been the ones where I've been like, yeah, I'm really excited, here's some money, and then they're like, cool, and then in like 3.5 months time they're like, here's your thing, and you're like, you didn't tell me anything about this. Like, it's just arriving now, it's just a pre-order. Do you know what I mean?
It's a pain, like, and Dan will attest to this with Shenmue 3. That like, I've pre-ordered like board games that are like, and it's been like a year and a half before they've come out, and you don't get a single update generally.
Right.
To be fair, I do get regular updates on Shenmue. I got one on Friday. That was Project update number 112.
Oh God! Just release the game.
That's incredible, Dan. No, I take that back then, because I forget, sorry, Dan, that yours was a Kickstarter as well, technically, wasn't it, for Shenmue?
Yeah.
It wasn't a pre-order. It wasn't like the game was already funded. Yeah, that's
No,
true,
I mean,
actually.
I treated it like a pre-order.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was absolutely a Kickstarter. So yeah, I mean, it's coming to the end of the road with the Shenmue 3 Kickstarter now. The updates I'm getting now is we're at the Tokyo Game Show. We're doing this. We're nearly ready. We're going to be sending out our surveys soon for you to put any last details or anything. So that's all is what's happening with.
Can we change the name of the game, please?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's great. I'm loving it, man. I'm really, really loving it because, yeah, as I was saying, I've pre-ordered board games. You don't hear anything from them, and you just have to look for rumours and check the same forum post on Board Game Geek to get updates and things. But this is great. It's coming straight to my phone. I get a little ping. Oh, fancy these new minis? Oh. Yeah,
yes,
maybe.
Yes, I do. The thing I like is that because his name's Tim Fowers. Is that his
Tim
name?
Fowers? Yeah. I was very fortunate enough to chat to the bloke on the We're Not Wizards podcast, actually.
So, like, the thing I really like about him, because I've just had a quick look at the Kickstarter for Burgle Brothers 2, and, like, the thing I really like about it is that he was asking for, like, 25 grand or something like that, and he's got, like, nearly $500,000. And, like, it's incredible. And I think the thing I really like about it is that, like, he's built up so much goodwill in the board game community by doing that first one and then it being great and delivering it and it being, you know, really, really well on it. And then with Burgle Brothers, like, he's built this, like, you know, he did the app and it's a pretty good app, like, and it's, you know, well priced and all that sort of stuff. And he seems to, like, get involved in the community and, like, he seems to, like, go and speak with people and go on nice podcasts and stuff like that. And, like, that's kind of what I like about it is then that, like, that's shown in, like, and now he's got $500,000 and, like, thousands of people have, like, kickstarted his game. And I think that's we're still at that really nice phase in tabletop games where there is, like, one person who is, like, the figurehead of the game, and you're like, yeah, I want to back this because I really want this person to succeed. I like that we're still at that sort of stage.
No, definitely.
Yeah, I did see that crop up actually quite recently, and I was really tempted. I'm not going to lie, partly I was really tempted because I'm a sucker for kind of, like, really good packaging, and it's really beautifully packaged. I was like, oh. But then I just thought to myself,
it will be densely packaged as well.
Yeah, there's a lot to it, and it's kind of multi-purpose, and it looked amazing. But I just thought, hang on a minute, I'm probably never really going to play this game, just because I'm not going to be in a scenario where this game will get played. So I'm buying it because it looks nice. I'm kind of like, that's not enough of a reason for me to drop this money on it. As much as I would enjoy the game if I played it, but yeah, just the look of it wasn't enough for me to purchase.
No, it's the Burgle Brothers. It's my partner and mine. It's our favourite game. I think it's a heist game, a cooperative heist game, and yeah, this one is a kind of a sequel. It's the same gang in a casino, and there's you've got more kind of powers and upgrades abilities, and just some really quite cool stuff as you're trying to case this joint while the security guards are roaming around Metal Gear Solid-esque, and you've got to avoid them. But I'll give a proper update on it when it comes out, which I don't know, be sometime next year, I presume.
Oh yeah, it's not going to be anytime soon.
No.
But congratulations, Kris. I reward you. You're well in. I just stay away from Kickstarter. It's just safer that way. Everything I've backed I've either played before or have some sort of faith that it will be good. So the first thing I did was Temp Worker Assassins, which I played at Manchester Tabletop Gaming before I backed it. Monica's was a bit of a shot in the dark, but it was the Shut Up and Sit Down expansion that was like £12, so I thought I'll try that. And then we played it, and then it was fantastic. So everyone in my family bought the damn game. And then I was going to back, what was that Tim Fowers game? Now Boarding.
Yes.
But Tim Fowers, being the fantastic person he is, released it free as a print and play. And so I printed it all off, laminated everything, and me and Kris played it, and we were like, oh, this is nice, but yeah, real-time games are just not my thing. So, I didn't put any money behind it, 'cause it just wasn't my thing.
But I think that's one of those things, isn't it, where, like, I think for a lot of creators, they would rather like you didn't part with your money if it wasn't the thing you wanted.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, there's there's an RPG person, a PC role-playing game creator, and heads up something called Spiderweb Software, and he's quoted as saying, if you're not the sort of person who likes my games, I don't want your money. Like, and it's this idea of, I'd rather have a complete customer base that is like completely happy with what they've purchased, so that they keep buying. They keep buying and buying and buying and buying, and the next one's the next one and the next one. And I find that really interesting. I think maybe that's part of the reason that sometimes people do these print and plays, so that like when you get the game at the end of it, you're not like, oh, I didn't like it.
Yeah, and I think the one thing that I don't enjoy about Kickstarter is the exclusivity of it, the feeling that the pressure it kind of puts under some people, not everyone, that puts under some of the audience in terms of, you've got to get this because it's never going to be available in the shops.
Yeah.
If you don't jump on board now, you're going to miss out on this thing. And I think that's led to quite a lot of products coming out via Kickstarter that have maybe been not really achieved essentially what they wanted to do, or maybe their focus has been a little bit skewed. I think, again, going back to Tim Fowers, everything that he does on Kickstarter is at some point then made available at retail.
Yeah.
So you really get the impression that like what Kris is doing is like you said, literally backing Tim Fowers and going, I really love what you're doing. If buying the product now before it's made helps it get made, so everyone else can enjoy it down on the road, and maybe Kris will get a little bit of a discount on what that product would be full price at a retail version, then yeah, that's brilliant. I'm all for it.
And I think what makes it a little easier for me now in terms of maybe thinking twice about backing Kickstarter games is there's more and more companies and individuals reaching out to board game reviewers to actually review the game prior to that in rich detail.
Whenever I've watched a review, and going back to Tim Fowers for an example, because sometimes he has offered early prototypes of his games for review.
Yeah, I watched the one on Burgle Brothers too. That's been reviewed by Rado, say for example. He's reviewed it.
Cool.
But the thing there is, I think that's all about the mechanics of how the game will work are already set in stone.
Yes.
So they're able to make a review based on, this is how the mechanics work.
Yep.
Yes, mechanically, this feels like a good game. We can't say anything about what the card stock will feel like, what the minis will look like, you know, how the actual art will manifest itself, even the rules book. I remember there was a really interesting thing that he did for Now Boarding, where it was his rule book for Now Boarding was a Google Doc. Literally anyone could like come into it.
That's
and, like,
amazing.
Make little like errors and like make comments on things and say this rule needs to be clarified and why don't you say it this way. So yeah, I think if I ever watch a Kickstarter review for a product, it's always the same way I watch any board game review. I'm not really watching it. What am I trying to say here?
You're trying to say, I know what you're trying to say. You're trying to say that actually it doesn't matter if they like it or not, because they could be a different type of gamer to you. You can actually read between the lines, look at the mechanics and think, is this a good fit for me?
That's really good. Yeah, that's always really good.
Like there are some reviewers I'm on the level with that I'd probably take a risk on.
Yeah.
Like Six Nymph, for example, on the face of it, when you try and explain that game or demonstrate it in front of someone, you don't really understand what's going on because it's all mental. It's like the mind. It's like when you explain the mind to someone, it sounds ridiculous because there's nothing mechanically in front of you as a player which goes like Mousetrap. It's like the equivalent of like showing a kid Mousetrap and going, look what happens when I press this. Digga 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 digga. Mousetrap. That looks cool.
Yeah.
Compared to
Quaxer Quedlinburg. Who would have thought that drawing stuff out of a bag would be hilarious?
But even more with the mind. Look what happens to what Kris does when I put down a 98, and you guys go,
Also, I like describing the mind to people because it's just like what you do is you get four people in a room and you sit there in silence.
Well, that's also Splendor.
But there are some reviewers that you have to be in line with, and it's the same with video games to be able to make that leap.
Oh yeah,
to be
completely.
Able to trust that you're on that wavelength. Like there's only a select number of video game reviewers that I'm there with in board game stuff. But most of the time when I watch a board game review, it's I just need someone there to play it and explain it and show me how everything works
Yeah, and I think in those situations, those reviews are really good and really useful. The other downside that these things happen with Kickstarter is, like, Kickstarter now is becoming less and less and less. Hey, I've got this really good idea. You've never heard of me, but here's a few sketches. Here's a few bits and pieces. I really want to get this off the ground. It's it's now going way further down into the, like, this is just a pre-order for a big box of plastic, like. And, like, I don't know, and I think those reviews are sort of emblematic of that, because people are now like, well, is the game good? And it's just like, well, hold on a sec. This is all about getting the game to good. Like, it isn't about, it shouldn't necessarily be, is the game good? It's like, is this person actually capable of delivering what this is going to be? But I mean, there's lots of grey area in Kickstarters of what stage something should be at for you to go, yes, here's my money. Yeah, it's really interesting. I actually been playing a game myself that was originally on Kickstarter. I didn't actually back it at the time. I have been playing a game called Kelvin and the Infamous Machine, and this is because I was like, you know what? I would like to play a point-and-click adventure, because I haven't... I always find them quite relaxing. I find the comedy ones very relaxing, and I find them quite therapeutic in that I can play them on my mobile. So I did actually play this on my mobile telephone. I played this on Android. And basically it is from a company called Blitz, Blyts. It's on Steam as well. I think it's on iOS as well, but as I say, I played it on Android. And it was kickstarted a number of years ago now. I think maybe 2014, 2015, that kind of thing. And it is a classic Monkey Island-esque point-and-click adventure in that it's you look around spaces, you find objects, you rub those objects together. Sometimes they fit together, and then you rub those objects against other objects in the space. Those objects might be people. So, for example...
and are you always rubbing?
I mean, you'll always be rubbing.
All right.
So you will... There isn't any of that, like, old school point-and-click stuff of, like, different ways you can use the same object, of, like, pull object, push object, poke object. There's none of that sort of stuff. It's just like, here's the object, put it against this, it will do the thing automatically.
So is it a lot easier than some of the old classic kind of point and clicks?
Yeah, it's nowhere near as like tough as, and I say tough, nowhere near as unforgiving as like Police Quest or I don't know. I think even Monkey Island is actually a little bit too challenging in places. Certainly stuff like Gabriel Knight. But no, this one is about 4, maybe 5 hours, if like me you're a bit stupid, of just wandering around a really nice space. And this is the theme, and this is what I really liked about it. You play as a character called Kelvin, and Kelvin is an assistant to a scientist who has invented a time machine. But because the time machine looks like a shower, he's laughed out of like academic circles and like research circles. So he goes mad and he goes back into time, into different.
Back into time.
Just reverses into it.
Different. Yeah, he's like, watch out, lads. Beep beep beep. Hold on. Go back up in here. Where's Bach? There he is. Beep. So he goes back through time, and he basically starts changing things in the past. And so now in the future, the time-space continuum is a little bit fragile, and you have to go back into these 3 specific points of time and figure out who the people are that you're meant to be changing the events of. So one example is you meet Beethoven, and Beethoven doesn't create Beethoven's Fifth. Beethoven actually stops beforehand, and
no, just duh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then what transpires from there is hilarity.
But hang on.
Go on.
I might be looking too much into this.
Yeah.
But surely,
yes,
he just needs to back into the time parking spot.
Yeah.
In which he made the decision to make his time machine look like a shower and go, let's not do that.
Yeah, no, I think, Sam, you might
Let's
have...
also not bleach the jeans in said shower.
You might. I think you might be taking this a little bit too seriously. Unfortunately, it is definitely.
I have a solution to your quandary, Sam.
Oh, please.
If he went back in time to tell his former self not to make it look like a shower, that would involve the time machine changing the look of it, which would change the time machine he was in, so it would create a time paradox.
Ooh.
So he couldn't go back and cross his previous timeline, so he had to remain a shower.
Yeah.
It depends whether you're taking the Avengers theory of time travel or the Back to the Future version.
I take Back to the Future because that is time travel.
Thank God for that. I'm glad that's finally settled. The actual time travel is.
Do you know what the original time machine in Back to the Future was going to be? It wasn't a DeLorean car. Do you know what it was going to be originally?
Toilet.
Shower.
It was a little bit of both. I don't know why I said that. A fridge.
A fridge?
A little bit of both.
I don't know what I meant by that.
Wait.
Don't drink anything out of my fridge.
It's not... A fridge isn't even in the bathroom.
No, it isn't. Well.
And where's the water coming from in your fridge?
Do you want ice? I'll be all right. So basically,
Apple juice?
you go back in time and you help Beethoven discover the fifth. But all of these characters are a little bit cranky. So there's Beethoven, and then there's Newton, and there is
Leonardo da Vinci.
Dickens.
It's Da Vinci.
Good one.
Yes,
Nice
it is
one,
Da
Dan.
Vinci. And so you go and help those three sort things out. And basically, it's really snappily written. Like the writing is just really the writing is really snappy. It's that Ron Gilbert and Tim Schafer sort of constant playing off of one another, really snappy little one-liners coming in when you're just not expecting them, and they just make you just the entire time you've got this smirk on your face of that was really clever, or that was a really nice little bit of writing, or that is a really, really funny joke. Like, it is very good in that way, and it's really well optimized for mobile. Like, you tap your finger on the screen, you hold it, and it just shows you everything you can interact with, so you don't have to go pixel hunting, which is my absolute favourite, because it just means that you push through that story. Now, here's the thing. The only thing that I came away from it with that I kind of was a little bit disappointed with was it kind of felt just... I was like, I just want another chapter. Just one more chapter. It just feels slightly too short. Just slightly too short. And I went and looked it all up, and that's when I found out it was a Kickstarter. Because, you know how in Kickstarters you get stretch goals and stuff?
Yeah.
Well, that was what the extra chapters were going to be. And it turns out they squeaked through. They actually just about managed to get their funding and make a really, really good game. It's really well polished. But the extra chapters were going to be extra stuff.
Stretch goals.
Stretch goals. And I find that, and now the good thing is, I came away from it okay, bit short, but leave them wanting more. Now I'm I want a sequel, right? But I find that really interesting that genuinely did seem to be their strategy of well, we know what stories we really want to tell, and what we can definitely do a minimum viable product of this is going to be the thing that we release, and we're going to be happy with it. But if we get a chance, we'll do Einstein, we'll do whoever. And I really hope there's a sequel so I can actually go back and play around in those times as well, because those three stories are really, really fun. I came away from it I want more of this. So I should have backed it at the time. That's the...
if only could go back in time using Kris's fridge toilet.
Yeah. Lads, why did Beethoven go to the car dealership?
I don't know.
Hang on.
Oh, okay. Let's do some science on this. Hold on. Beethoven...
Car dealership.
Fifth Symphony.
He's picked his words carefully.
Yeah. Go back.
Why did Beethoven go to the car dealership?
Go back, did you say? Go back.
No, just go to the car dealership.
Oh,
now, Beethoven... Okay. Now he's not picked why did the classical musician go to the car dealership. It's specifically Beethoven. Beethoven was deaf. But I don't feel it's anything to do with that. So I think it's got to do with a specific piece of music. The most notable, probably the piece of music, is the Fifth Symphony, and it's probably something to do with the da 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 but I can't. Beyond that, I think I've built the bridge, but I can't make the final
there's
step.
got to be something in there, isn't there? There's like
It's got to be something with.
da 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 da.
What was this? We were award nominated last year.
And then Pete went back in time and screwed everything up.
Yeah. Go on, Kris, put us out of our misery for God's sake.
Why did Beethoven go to the car dealership?
Yeah.
For release?
You absolute bastard.
Thoroughly. I mean,
That's like a good 2 minutes of my life that I won't get back.
Sam, don't spoil Control for me, but do
spoil.
do tell me bits of it though. Do tell me.
Okay.
I'm genuinely interested because it looks like
it's the new hotness, isn't it?
it is the new hotness. It looks like the kind of game that
Yeah.
the sequel will be massive. Like you know what I mean? Like every once in a while you'll see like the first Uncharted, you saw it and you went, "There's something here," and then the second one is like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah. Okay. I can see that.
How many hours have you sunk into it, Sam?
Only a couple so far. So don't worry about me not spoiling it.
Thank
but a bit like all the games that I speak of on this podcast, I've played for it far too short a time and got far too overexcited about it that I just wanted to talk about
All
it.
right.
Control is a game by Remedy Entertainment,
Yep.
who previously made Quantum Break, Max Payne, and everybody's favourite game, Alan Wake, which is genuinely one of my favourite
I
games.
love it.
Great game.
Love it.
Yeah, Alan Wake's beautiful. So Control is the first game they've released outside of their Microsoft deal, so it's finally on PlayStation. And it is, well, okay, so I will give you sort of like the intro blurb to what Control is,
Okay.
story-wise. Okay,
Yeah.
you play a protagonist called Jesse,
Okay.
and the game starts with you entering a building in New York that's just called The Oldest House. And the oldest house is described in the game as a building that only becomes known to you when you want to find it. So in all other times it remains hidden. And it's
Like in Harry
sentences
Potter.
like that. A bit like in Harry Potter, yeah. And it's sentences like that that really grab my attention in terms of game, like game narratives and like general narratives in everything, because it kind of gives the whole thing, the whole game, this wonderful layer of depth that is you only ever seem to be like chiseling on the top of. I don't know if it will go any deeper in terms of the story and what's going to happen. In a way, I kind of don't want it to. At the moment, I'm really enjoying like wandering around this abandoned office building for reasons that I won't spoil, and picking up all these documents that have been left behind, most of which the documents have been redacted. So you're always just generally on the cusp of finding out a really interesting bit of information,
That's cool.
a really like juicy bit of lore around something that this building was involved with, because this building, the oldest house, is a home of the Federal Bureau of Control, who are essentially, if the X-Files had a big government budget and it wasn't just two people running around, stopping murders and stuff.
Yeah.
It would like this Federal Bureau of Control has a division called Dead Letters, in which they've gathered together all the letters that have become undeliverable by the US Post Service. So any letter that goes undelivered automatically gets sent to the Federal Bureau of Control, because there's a possibility that there's been some sort of paranormal activity that's gone on with them.
Okay.
Which again is as a wonderful bit of like legend building within this place.
Yeah.
And there's a thing that this game does where because the world that you're in and because of this this house, this oldest house that you're in, you're never quite sure whether the game is a bit shonky or it's doing stuff that's exceptionally clever.
Right. Okay.
So when a bit of texture doesn't pop in right, but then it does,
Oh,
you never
okay.
quite know whether the game is being exceptionally clever or it's slightly broken. It's a bit like that Deadly Premonition thing.
Yeah.
Where it's just on the cusp of, janky, that it might actually be doing it deliberately and getting away with it.
That's really clever.
Because there are genuine moments when I've been playing Control where I've gone down a corridor and then turned around and come back and the corridor I've gone down has been completely different, or a room has appeared that I was convinced I'd been into all the rooms, but no, this appears to be a new room, and now I'm not quite sure whether that room has just appeared or it was always there and I missed it.
Right.
So there is something genuinely unsettling about this game, and it's not unsettling in a tense way. It's kind of unsettling in like, yeah, I really want to investigate stuff because I really want some more freaky things to happen, because I quite that feeling, that like little bit of buzz when something, and it's not like the layers of fear frightening or PT. It's not doing it to get a scare out of you. It's doing it to make this as convincing as possible, because the thing about the oldest house is it does shapeshift. There are rooms which almost like an inverse Rubik's Cube, where the structure of the house itself is like pushed in on itself and formed new rooms, and then when you've cleared that room of enemies, the house will sort of morph back into the shape that it previously was. Like all these little blocks will suddenly like push away and the room will go back to how it was. So there's always this idea that, and they talk about it a little bit in the opening about how they're almost having to fight the house and how the house behaves to get it to settle into some sort of space that they can actually run a federal bureau of something. So there's this idea of these things that have been locked away and these secrets that are remaining to be hidden, all within this action shooting game, which is kind of the B-side to all the narrative stuff that's keeping me there. And luckily the shooting and the combat is actually quite satisfying. You have this gun that doesn't have ammo, it just automatically reloads.
Okay.
And if you hold on to this gun, you are the director of the whole bureau. But the gun selects the person who holds it, and if you fail the selection process, you die. There's a lot of lore to kind of pick up, which kind of feels a bit laboured sometimes. It kind of feels like a bit like, you're making me do all the work reading all this stuff, right, when you could have just shown it. But then when you wander into a room and see lots of members of staff levitating in the air, and then these enemies start coming towards you and you start fighting them, like,
you're like,
that
sick.
just always seems to come at the right time, right, to like bring you out of that lethargy and kind of bring you back into that world. Because the gunplay is actually exceptionally snappy. You have this gun which is essentially made up of part of the house. So the gun, just like the oldest house can change and shift and move, your gun can also change and shift and move. And I believe later on in the game, it will change into like a shotgun and a sniper rifle. And it doesn't have any ammo, so the gun reloads after a period. If you shoot all the ammo, it takes a short like recharging time. So then you're forced to use these paranormal like actions that you have available to you, and you can like levitate, you can literally rip the concrete from the house and throw it at your enemies. So there's this wonderful, I'm done shooting now I'm going to have to either run off and hide, which is a little bit impossible because the battles happen in these enclosed sort of square like cube arenas, or I'm going to have to think about the other tools I have available to me to take down these enemies, and then I get my gun back, use the gun, finish that round of ammo, then go to my melee or my other strategies. So there's a wonderful balance between this like digging around for lore and then sorting out, getting these enemies free so you can then carry on digging around for lore, and then you can move on to the next battle. And I think Control probably is best summed up to anyone who's always to to anyone who likes it when they're left in their office block on their own, or they've ever been. As a kid, did you ever get the opportunity to go around your school when no one was there?
Yeah.
And
It's creepy.
I think it's creepy, but also exceedingly familiar.
Yeah.
And there's something wonderfully delightful about being the last person in an office block, and just these places that usually are inhabited by hundreds and thousands of people just being empty, and you being the only person in there who can explore and roam around. There are other characters that are in the space, but largely you're just left on your own to explore this moving, shifting, shaping geography of an office building. And I think if you're that kind of person, if you're that as a kid, you went to church and you were the last person there, and you just were just happy sort of wandering around while no one was there to supervise you, or you're the last person in an office, on a night shift and that kind of stuff, then Control is just
that's cool.
Oh, it's so good. And you're not exploring a boring accountancy office, you're exploring a building where there's a wonderful note you find very early on which describes the stuff you're not allowed to bring into the building. And one of them is, it's something like, do not bring in anything that is a definitive object of its type. So a rubber duck is a very definite shape and object that kind of defines itself, and all other rubber ducks, because there's a thing that happens where these objects can become objects of power and actually become quite destructive.
Right.
So if you bring in something that the house deems a iconography, that has really strong iconography, for example, one of the next object of power I'm going to is a red Bakelite phone.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
And it's the only thing I've seen of it so far is it's suspended in this plastic box in the middle of this black and white checkerboard room with this little leather armchair sitting next to it, and the phone just ringing. And Remedy just do some brilliant things with narrative and storytelling. It just, instead of someone going, right, here is your next mission and here's something on the map. Someone did do that, but then there was a cutscene where there was just this phone ringing in the background, and the phone just getting louder and louder and louder, and it just showing me this box and this room, and slowly going towards it and towards it and towards it and towards it, and that being my next objective.
That's cool.
And it's done some wonderful things with internal monologue, the character speaks to herself quite a lot. So I just hope it's going to be able to keep up this theme for the rest of its playtime, because I always worry about games like this. Assassin's Creed Odyssey was a really interesting first 6 or 7 hours when I was just going over that one island, and the pace was really snappy and everything was sort of at a nice speed, and then it drops off.
Right.
So I'm hoping that this is just as riveting as it already has been.
Look out for the fridge, Sam.
I will.
No, genuinely,
I've heard about the fridge.
There is a fridge in it. Genuinely.
There is also.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I have actually heard, and I will spoil this. There's a fridge in it where someone has to be watching the fridge at all times, and apparently you stumble across this guy, and the person who's meant to relieve him hasn't turned up for a shift because there's been this thing that's happened in the Federal Bureau of Control, so he's just been left to stare at this fridge. There's also a room in Control that apparently is voiced by Hideo Kojima, and it's just a room full of forklifts, and Hideo Kojima just says something very Kojima-esque.
That's cool.
Whilst you're in this
That's
room
great.
full of
That's
forklifts.
great.
I'm pretty ill at the moment. Don't know if you can tell, but that's because I decided to go running on one of the coldest days of this month, which is impressive because as a recording, it's only been 9 days. Yeah, and it was really, really muddy. So I'm not feeling that good. Doesn't matter because it was all for a good cause.
Was it?
All
Were you
for a
doing it
good
for charity?
cause. I was doing it for charity. I never leave my house without turning on the Charity Miles app, Dan. You know me better than
Does
that.
that mean it's time for a Charity Miles update?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Don't get too excited. I mean, come on.
I'm excited, Dan. I've been logging miles every single day. I've been putting my steps in.
You have been diligent.
Diligent.
You
That's
have.
what they call me.
And I know this because up until recently, for the first 7 months of this year, I have been also diligently recording every single submission that people have put in.
Yeah.
I calculated it to be around about 2,000 submissions, and
That's cool.
recorded every single one of them.
That's a lot.
Unfortunately,
Yeah.
about a month ago, the app where I was getting all my information stopped giving me said information. So I've been unable to be recording them since then. However,
Okay.
I've pulled together all of my brain cells.
Yeah.
I directed them towards a spreadsheet, and I got working.
Okay.
And I was able to figure out a ratio of running to cycling for every single person who has been joining in our charity miles. And
You've done so well.
through the joys of mathematics, I can approximate a total amount that we have raised.
Okay, that's good.
Would you like to know so far how much we've raised? Now, before it was a bit more concrete. This is a bit more of an approximation. But would you like to know how much we've raised so far?
Heck yeah.
Can you give us it in millions of pounds, Dan?
In millions of pounds. Okay, it's less than £1 million.
Okay.
Okay.
0, 0, 0, 0.
It's £0 million.
Getting
I
warmer.
can say that.
The first 4 digits are 0.
So I don't remember when we last updated this. So I'm not quite sure where we were last time. But I can tell you where we are now because we're on a nice big round number, so it feels quite nice.
Yeah, go on.
So do you want to have a guess where we are?
No, I don't want to guess because I don't want to be like £100,000 and it's like a tenner. Like I would hate that.
That's fair. That is fair.
Yeah.
So we have raised so far this year for charity, for a selection of charities. The charities so far I can tell you that we have raised for are Stand Up to Cancer, World Wildlife Fund, Alzheimer's Association, Girl Up, Back on My Feet, Save the Children, Autism Speaks, and the Nature Conservancy.
Bloody hell.
Fantastic.
And we have so far raised a grand total of £1,800, which I think is pretty fantastic.
Oh my god.
Because when you say we, Dan, when you say we, you don't mean just us four. I think that's important.
Well, I don't mean
to say
us,
to
but no.
listeners.
There is, I think, 29 runners in total, so it's 25 people are running with us. So
That's cool.
Close your eyes next time you go for a run. You can imagine being surrounded by 25 other people, and that's who you're running with. Some
quite
people
scary.
have run just a little bit. Some people have run an awful lot of miles, running, cycling, doing whatever they can, and it's been fantastic. $1,800, sorry. So far, we are on course to reach just over 2,000. I think last time we had an update, Sam decided our target was going to be 2,500. I'm not sure we're going to quite make that.
I did. Oh, we can do it.
Okay.
Chris, come on. Sort it
What,
out.
should we just leave now, Sam, and go running?
Yep.
Just do it now.
Muff. I'm going to run in.
Off you go then. All right. See you later.
God, he's got his lycras on as well.
Off you go. He's gone. Well, let's wrap it up. Right.
Wow.
That's it. I'm going to go as well.
Yeah, I've got a cold, but if we've got to get this target of $2,500 grand,
Heading out.
oh, he's back.
What a run.
Look at those lunges.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, this is...
What a machine.
What a run.
Make sure to have a proper warm down, Sam.
I will do.
Okay,
I tell you,
Lactic acid, it's a killer.
I'm fully taking advantage of the fact that Charity Miles app rounds up.
Yeah!
Hey.
Saved me many a day.
That was Staying In with Daniel Frost, Sam Turner, Peter Willington and myself, a cold-infested Kris Darby. If you've enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts. If you'd like to leave a review too, we'd be really chuffed to bits. Keen to dig a little further? Why not head over to stayinginpodcast.com. On it you'll find our page on Board Game Geek, our Steam curation page, and all the different ways you can follow us. @StayingInPod is where you need to find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. For those of you who want to get fit and do so for a good cause, Come and join our team. Just head to your app store and download Charity Miles for your mobile telephone and look for us in the app at #StayingInPod. That's all one word, #StayingInPod. Thanks for listening.